Okay, we're doing chapter 1. This is the first section. This section is the sum of the angles of a triangle is 180 degrees. That's conjecture 17, C17. So we're just going to jump right in and do some of the problems on your exercise, on your worksheet. This is number 4. Sorry about my mess here. I had a different picture and then realized you couldn't see the numbers. So I redid it, tried to make it a little bigger. All right, so let's just look at this picture and see what we notice. Well, first of all, we notice a couple of parallel lines. I know that this and this are parallel because they have the same number of arrows. And I also notice that this one and this one are also parallel. Notice the one arrow on those. So let's talk about these three, or the green parallel lines. So this is the transversal for those parallel lines, and I know that this angle right here and this angle right here are going to be the same because they are alternate interior angles, right? So if this is 100, then T is also 100 degrees. I'm just going to write that in there so I don't forget. But what do I know about these two angles? Don't I know that these two angles are vertical angles? If that's true, then this is also 100 degrees. This is an isosceles triangle because the base angles are the same, right? So that means, does that mean that 100 plus two of those, let's call them x, has to equal 180? Subtract 100 from both sides. So x equals 40. So these are both 40 degrees. Now let's look at these orange parallel lines. And don't I know, if I look at this transversal, I'm going to use a different color. Don't I know that this and this have to be the same because, again, they're alternate interior angles. So if this is 40, so is this one. If this is 40, so is S, because those are vertical angles. If this is 40 and this is 100, this has to be 40 also, because 40 plus 100 is 180. So that shows us that S is 40 and R is 40. So remember that sometimes you have to figure out the angles, angle measurements of angles that aren't even part of the answer, because you eventually have to get there. And I do find it's easier to, when I find out one of the angles, I just write it in there so I can see it right on the problem, on the worksheet. All right, let's go on to look at number 6. Okay, let's talk about what we know about the sum of the angles. So I know that this angle and this angle and this angle equals 180, right? Well, how do I write that? Well, I know that this 100 minus x plus this plus this equals 180. That's how I write it. I'm going to collect my like terms. So I have 7x plus 4x is 11. 11 minus 1 is 10. 130. Oops. Simplify. I'm going to subtract 130 from both sides. That must mean that x equals 5. So if x equals 5, this angle right here is 35 degrees. Well, doesn't 35 plus y also equal 180? Because that's a linear pair right there. So subtract 35 from both sides. Leaves you with y equals 145. Does that make sense? Yeah, that's an obtuse angle. So y is 145 degrees. And that is 4.1.